Hello everyone, and welcome to Minecraft University. Minecraft University is the multimodal portion of my dissertation completed in April 2020. What we're going to do in this walkthrough video is I'm going to take you through the Welcome Center. I'm going to walk through Playtown, which is the open collaborative workspace that my students and others have built within, as well as the Minecraft University portion, which is a 3-building university that represents each area of my research. When you first load up the world, you are met by a greeter. She is going to direct you to the left or the right, depending on if you've been here before. If you have been here before, then you can skip ahead and just go to the right-hand side, which has a bunch of teleporters that bring you throughout the world. If it is not your first time, she's going to direct you to the left, which is going to explain the entire Minecraft University project. On the bottom here, there's also a project website, which I'll get to at the end. If I follow these arrows and go down, you'll notice that the Welcome Center is full of pixel art. I'm not going to read each of these signs. Hopefully you will either enjoy the experience yourself or you can pause to read them completely. But what the sign is explaining is where we are currently. This is my Minecraft University, and this really was a labor of love. This is the multimodal component, so there is a companion website, and a lot of the research that is represented here can be read in my dissertation as well. The 3 primary buildings in the university are game-based learning, literacy, and the failure tower. All of this will make a lot more sense when we get there. Now, this dissertation, the main point of it is to put forward a new framework for learning called the Ludic Framework. This is highly inspired by constructionist learning theories of play, possibility, and failure, and a number of interdisciplinary practices, which I talk a lot about in the dissertation, and some of which will end up in the world here. It is built on 8 principles: curiosity, play, flexibility, metacognition, collaboration, invention, persistence, and creativity. Hopefully, you experience all of these as you play through this world, but there are also signs and NPCs that do explain some of these throughout the process. I do have several of these signs here that are going to explain the process and how it was built. This is roughly about 200 hours across 11 different people, myself, my wife, and 9 students. Throughout the entire area, you will see a bunch of research with citations. All the citations can be found on the companion website, which will be listed throughout this world. I do have some NPCs here. There's a Welcome Center expert over here. We have gameplay tips. The Welcome Center expert is just going to give a little bit more information about the world that is here. Again, we have a sign here that's explaining kind of the process, and I'll explain the hex grids in a moment. These 3 signs here represent the process that we took on our first meeting. We wanted to kind of set expectations, the minimum needs to complete the project, the attainable feats, and then our wishes. Luckily, we were able to actually accomplish most of these. Again, this is just a reminder that we can go over here and click on the website, which will be linked in the video as well. Now, these explain each of the areas that we have here. So we have Playtown, which we're going to go into in a minute. Then we have the GBL building, game-based learning, literacy, and then failure tower. Now, here's my favorite part. This is the map, the top-down view of everything here. I'm just going to get rid of the interface for a moment so we can see it. So this is a top-down area of everything that was created. You can see a lot of pixel art that was here. We are in the Nintendo, the NES, that's on the right-hand side. The Welcome Center is designed as a Nintendo, mostly because that's how I started my gaming process and my gaming journey, which has greatly influenced my research and the way that I go about teaching, which we'll get to more in a moment. We have Playtown, which is the center area between the Minecraft creeper face and the Nintendo, which was an open build area, which had a bunch of hexagons. The hexagons that we created, it was a very difficult process. Even though we all knew how large they were supposed to be, we had some counting difficulties, and it took us quite a while to redo the hexagons. But there's over 200 hexagons in total. Each one is supposed to represent a building plot, but it also gave us the opportunity to kind of see how large things were going to be. So spatially, we were able to figure out proportions throughout the entire playtown. The university doesn't have any hexagons. A couple of reasons behind this. One, we didn't see that it was necessary to put them throughout the entire university. And also, we thought it would take away from the aesthetics of the university itself. But you can see that the hexagons have influenced some of the buildings and some of the build areas. Now, the path does not go to all the buildings. The path essentially leads you directly through the village. It is based on the pre-existing path that was procedurally generated, and it brings you straight to the Minecraft University. But as you can see, there are a lot of other builds, a lot of other objects that you can go exploring that are off the beaten path. So this is just a reminder that everybody is starting on survival mode. And by all means, once you explore this and play through the game as intended, I highly recommend that you do switch your game mode over to creative. You can do this before you load up the world in the settings menu. By doing creative mode, you would be able to add your own buildings, your own research, your own structures to add to the world. So when we come out, this is Playtown. So we have the Nintendo, or Nintend, because Nintendo did not fit. We have a bunch of pixel art, and we have the procedurally generated village. Now, if I come up to the university staff, he's going to remind us that the architects, I do refer to anybody that helped me on this as architects, the architects did build many different things. There's a lot of things to explore, and there's also some research that's kind of thrown in. So I'm going to walk up here just to show you what some of the signs look like for the research. So this one is by Lanham, talking about the economist of attention. They're not all just quotes. Many of them have been synthesized to make it a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier to understand. But I do have the last name, the year, and the page number of everything that I'm talking about. That way, when you go to the companion website, you'll be able to look at the work cited, and if you would like to read more about this scholar or this idea, you have that information at your fingertips. Now, these lines right here, these kelp blocks, we could see them even continue in the water. These are the hexagons. This is what gives us the hex grid that we have when we see it from the top down. So this is one of the few buildings that I created in the town. I created a blacksmith. I love making blacksmiths. And you can see it's just a little structure here. The blacksmith that was originally here, it was really small and it didn't really fit with everything. So one of my students asked if I wanted to recreate it. And you can see this is one of the procedurally generated huts. Student created a little market space. Okay. Here's one of the NPCs that represents a scholar, so Carly Finseth. So you have her quote here. And any NPC that is named after a person, you can click on the link and it will bring you to a link to the book on Amazon, so you can purchase it if you would like to. This is on the edge of Playtown, so we can see a bunch of the structures that were created. So we have Plox's quote here where he defines rhetoric through the sophistic lens. Rhetoric is the art which seeks to capture in opportune moments that which is appropriate and attempts to suggest that which is possible. I use Plochus quite a bit in my dissertation. I also have a quote here from him. So as you start on this path, you will notice that the university starts coming into view. Now, the university was always meant to be quite large, but honestly, I did not expect it to end up this big, thanks to how many students were willing to help me with this process. So as I'm coming up here, the large creeper head, I've been calling it the crest of Minecraft University. We can see it here. We have a little information kiosk, Minecraft University sign, and then we have two towers that are on either side of the gate of the university. Now, I do want to mention, I don't want to spoil anything. There are a lot of hidden, like, little secrets and different things that you can do in the university, and I'll show a couple of them, but I don't want to spoil all of them. My students and I, all of us architects, we really did put a lot of thought into how this was going to be designed, and we wanted to reward those that would be curious. Now, to make sure that people didn't stray too far, I did put an invisible barrier around the entire world. So once you start getting a little bit too far out there, it will prevent you from going any further. So let's go over to the information kiosk. Okay. And we have two different people, university staff and university greeter, and it's replicated on either side. So the greeter, if you go up to her, she's going to remind you about the companion website if you want to learn more about the project. And I do want to reiterate, on the website, there's this walkthrough video is going to be available there. I also have a development diary where I interview some of the other architects, and I have a bunch of time-lapse footage of us creating this world. There's also a very long process log explaining the process, my almost 10-year journey of getting to the dissertation process using Minecraft. The university staff is going to be able to teleport you to 3 different areas. So the game-based learning building, which is kind of the central piece of Minecraft University, the founder's plaque, which I'll show you in a moment, and the amphitheater. So I'm going to go in to the university. So established April 2020. We did technically start working on this in February, and we finished it in April. So we have the 2 towers. The one tower, as the designer says, it looks like a McDonald's hat, but it's a wizard's hat, M for Minecraft. And then we have a destroyed tower with the iconic diamond sword and the arrow. So as you come in, we have the diamond pickaxes on either side. But as you come in, you see the GBL, Game-Based Learning Building. This is the main building. If you remember from the map, the way that it's actually designed, I designed this building initially. It's Space Invader sprites, 2 different ones that are mirrored to create the shape of the building. It's kind of hard to tell unless you're looking from the top-down view, which I highly recommend doing when you're looking at the menu, or the map, rather. Okay, so before I go into the game-based learning, I just want to kind of explore this a little bit. So we have Failure Tower over here. So it looks like a tower that is collapsed and frozen in time. Game-based learning, and then literacy. We also have the founder's plaque over here. These are all the architects, and a very low estimate of how many hours in-game we all worked. So I had more than 60 hours, but it's roughly 60 hours. Jordan spent at least 30. Matthias spent about 25. My wife, Elisa, she spent over 20, and you can see the other ones that have kind of come down. I did request that at least 4 students to help me outline buildings, spending at least 5 hours each, and as you can see, my students definitely stepped up and did way more than I ever expected. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go into the game-based learning building. Now, there's me, a little avatar of me. If you click on it, I do mention that these 2 boards to the left and right of the avatar, They do talk a lot about my syllabus language that I use instead of assignments, quests or adventures instead of projects. I call them raids. And there's the dissertation explains the reason for that language. But I got the idea from it actually from Lee Sheldon's book, The Multiplayer Classroom, from I believe it was 2014. However, he did just come out with a brand new edition in March of 2020, which I have not yet read. But I do have the language. This is the script that I would read to my students over here. Now, we do have, if you were able to see this from the top down, these gaps here are what help define the Space Invader sprites. But I'm just going to jump down here just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So first, I guess I'll explain this part. So this is inside the game-based learning building. And I originally told my students that what I really wanted to do was I wanted to kind of reflect some of the older platformer games. And I think my students, I've made this little platform right here. And my students really ran with it. So it's supposed to kind of look like Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong Jr., with the different ladders, the scaffolding, the platforms that you could jump between. There's even some barrels up there. So say you came in and you weren't really paying attention and you ended up falling, right? So this is where you end up in the failure space. There's no way for you to get back up. You can't jump that high in Minecraft, no matter what you do. So there's a lot of opportunity to fall into this area of failure and possibility. Now, the reason why we designed it this way is because in games, failure is at every corner, every edge, every opportunity that you have around. And it's something that gamers have to deal with. I do have a quote here, or a question here asking what the favorite game is. Doesn't help anybody in the situation, but it's always good to reflect, as I say. I do have some things to mock and tease. As you can see here, sometimes what we need is just out of reach. Again, there's no way to get up. So you have to resort to falling into this area. I'm going to crouch down so I could kind of stick my head out a little bit. So there's a lot of opportunity to fall into this pit. If you end up landing on the wood over in those areas, you can die and you'll spawn right back at the beginning. But no matter what I do, if I jump to there, if I was able to jump into there, I still can't get out. And there's a bunch of quotes about failure throughout this area. Now, I'm just going to fall in, and this is, these slime blocks do allow you to bounce. So if you do fall from the top, you do have the opportunity to bounce out if you're quick enough. But it's very difficult. Now, slime, it also takes you a while to walk across. It is very slow. But I have a lot of quotes here, quite a few from Polakis, which talk about possibility. There is a hidden door. It's kind of hidden. It's right here. That'll take me out. Now, this is a huge maze, and I don't feel like going through that right now. So I'm actually going to just teleport out. Okay, so now I'm back in the game-based learning building. So I'm not going to fall down this time, but there are some areas around here. Another scholar, Justin Hodson, with some of his quotes from his article talking about introducing games into the classroom. I do have a bunch of little signs all the way around, but remember, all these little areas that you can fall into bring you into the failure area, or the realm of failure, as we've been calling it. So you could go around and you could read the research about the game-based learning, all different aspects about bringing games into the classroom. There's the constructionist learning theory, and gaming fluencies and gaming practices, connected gaming practices, all different things that I talk about in the dissertation about the reason to bring games or game influences into the classroom. Now, there's a couple different ways to get to the top. So there's a bunch of different platforms and paths that you can climb on. These scaffolds you can climb up. And a lot of it requires you just to kind of jump around and just find the best way to get out. Now, the only way to get to the top is through that platform all the way over there. So I'm just going to jump over just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So you could take the long path, right? Gaming is all about paths and possibility. So you could actually parkour or jump, do all these jumping challenges all the way around, all the way to jump onto here, to get up to this tower, to get to the top. Now, I will mention that the place that I went, it's not so obvious, right? It's not so obvious to get to the top that way. But you can see that there's a lot of research signs all the way around. These are the barrels that I was talking about that's supposed to reference Donkey Kong. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to the top. Okay, so now I'm on the top of the game base building. There's another parkour challenge that's over here with ice. You don't get anything for completing it, but it is a pretty difficult and fun challenge. Okay, now if you were to come back down or just go straight to the back, you could come out this area over here. There's a little fountain and an amphitheater over here. If you step on those pressure plates, you should activate a delayed fireworks show. It's over there in the back. It's inspired by a lot of different games, especially older games. When you beat a level or get to the end, there's always fireworks at the end. To kind of another parkour challenge, but also it kind of showcases the physics of Minecraft. Nice little fountain over here. We do have the trophy, right? Get a golden trophy for completing it. We do have these two statues that are on the side just for aesthetic reasons. But it's kind of hard to see, but hopefully you can see like with the orange over there in the mouth. So you could kind of see the sprite for Space Invaders, right? So now I could go across this way. I could kind of sneak around this building. There's a parkour challenge that'll actually bring you towards the top for the failure structure. I could go into the failure structure from the base and make my way up. But I want to go to the literacy building. The literacy building is probably the most involved. Now, I do have my avatar sitting here once again with a link to the website, but also you can't really make glamorous signs by any means in Minecraft. However, I did want to put a little something here to acknowledge all the students that helped me. This process was not an easy process. It took a while for us to get started. Once we did get started, it was fantastic. We did a lot of work. My students were really dedicated to doing this. And then the COVID-19 pandemic hit when we were going on spring break. And students weren't able to fully complete everything that they wanted to. Some of them were able to jump in remotely in the weeks after spring break. But with all the transitions, honestly, to online learning and students losing their jobs and all different types of issues that are currently going on with the pandemic, I cannot express how thankful I am for how much time they devoted to this project. But the literacy building, the aesthetics here are kind of complicated. So the dissertation talks about how we move from oral literacies, or the oral apparatus, as Gregory Ulmer calls it, into the written or literate apparatus, the written apparatus, and then we move into what he calls electracy, which is this digital literacy apparatus that doesn't have this, that is not governed by the same rules as the written literacies. And you can read the dissertation or some of the signs that are up here to better understand how that all reflects. But I wanted to start with kind of like the Greco-Roman pillars, courts, kind of look here in Minecraft with a little fountain. Bonus points if you could recognize the Greek letter. There's a bunch of hidden things that are kind of around this area. But you kind of walk in, and this was built into a pre-existing mountain. You can see all the different caves and everything that are here. So we wanted to kind of make it foundational, right? Literacy is foundational to our communication. So we wanted to build it into the mountain and make it look sturdy, right? So the bottom floor is more about oral literacy, not all the research, but how it looks. We have some lecterns, we have some seating, and it's very open. This is supposed to show like the foundation aspect of it. Behind these doors, there's a little classroom, right, with a student put a quote from Chaucer. And we have research here that talks about the definitions of literacy. And if we snake around to the second floor is definitely more what we would recognize as modern literacies, written literacies. So we have V with a quote about code and computation. Go through here, and there's a little library, the alphabet. And we can go to the top here. And so we went from quartz to brick, and now we're going to glass. And it's supposed to signify the openness and the connections across different types of infrastructures, electronic infrastructures. So you'll see these are supposed to be like seats with TV screens or transparent glass. There's a lot of stuff about electricity here. And Ulmer. Jan Holmvik talking about electricity encompassing a worldview of civic engagement, community building, and participation. So the civic, the social openness, collectivity, that's what this building is really supposed to represent. Now a student built this little clever elevator that shoots you up to the top. Now to get to the second floor you have to kind of act quickly, and it's easy to just kind of go up the tube like in Willy Wonka. So this floor is really about video. We have a little green screen here with a camera. Minecraft artwork is always odd, with a bunch of different quotes here about electricity, literacy, the apparatus. And if you go to the top floor, we have a makerspace. This was somewhat inspired by the Clemson University makerspace in the Wall of Inspiration. We have some computer code here, the makerspace structure with more research and more code. All right, now we're going to go to my favorite building. So the game-based learning building, even though I did the initial design, my students really took over and decided on how to put up the walls, make it glass, all the platforms, the roof. They did a really great job. Literacy, I told them, I kind of wanted some quartz on the bottom and stone and brick in the middle and then the glass on the top, and they really ran with it. So all the architects that worked on this did a really good job of trying to also aesthetically represent the research. All right, so now we have Failure Tower. Failure Tower, as I explained on the website, my students did not want to touch it. They did not want to try to make this tower that was falling over. They were really confused. They didn't really know how to do it. So on one of the last days that we worked face-to-face together, I actually built this tower out, and then a student helped me with the interior a little bit. So as you come towards Failure Tower, it looks decrepit, it looks like it's falling apart, it looks like it's a building in progress. It's kind of a mess here. And this space is frozen in time. It's about taking action in a difficult time, or a time of failure, or a challenging moment. It's even a struggle to get up the stairs here. You could go out this way and try to interact with that tower over there. There's no doors. I'm gonna go up, and you can see it's very easy to fall through the floor here. And the further up you go, the harder it is to get through this area. Now, the biggest risk here with Failure Tower is if you fall, you are most likely going to die and have to go back to the start and do this again. But it is rewarding because you do get to the top of the GBL building. Now, I do want to mention in the distance here, so where this cuts off, that's where the border is, and it goes all the way around. I did create a golden sphere in the distance, and there's a quote over there about Kairos and metanoia. Kairos is usually depicted in Greek artwork as a young man with a forelock running on top of a ball, and he's very quick, very difficult to grab onto. So the kairotic, the opportune moment. And if you miss him, there's this woman in a veiled cloak that is metanoia, and she's supposed to help you with the grieving process for the next time Kairos comes along, for you to hopefully be in a better position to seize that moment once again. So you can't actually get there. So it's all about the possibility and potentiality, but you can't get to the sphere, but you can always see it on the horizon. So again, if you want to teleport, if you've been through this already and you want to teleport the different areas, there's a kind of a chaotic, unknown teleportation there. Teleporting around the Failure Tower, teleporting around Literacy, teleporting around GBL, and also teleporting around the town itself. And this is a better view of the Welcome Center. All different things that represent different aspects of gaming, either that I have encountered or others, the other architects have encountered. And that is the walkthrough of the multimodal Minecraft University build. There's a whole lot of information along with interviews with the students, the process log, the journey that I took from the first time that I played Minecraft all the way through to this dissertation. All that information is on the website, which is in the details below, and it is also referenced throughout this world. But it is Minecraft, Minecraft Chris Stewart, CHRISTUART, there's only one S there, .com. My email and everything is on there, so if you're interested in talking about this project, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Yeah, well, thank you for watching.